So we are live. Hmm. Hi everyone, and in this video we will be creating some operations. We'll be dealing with some operations. Actually, there are going to be a lot of operations in arrays. Okay, so these operations will be really helpful in your array concepts in JavaScript, as well as if you are performing something, you are creating a program in competitive programming platforms. So these operations will be really helpful because they build the basics and they are really beneficial when it comes to speed. Okay, like if you remember these operations, you really can achieve any different kind of problems in competitive programming. And generally you also use these operations in building websites and the backend part if you use JavaScript in any case. So now let's start. First of all, let's in the last video, by the way, we have covered the basics of JavaScript and we performed some basic operations like sort and reduce and some basic operations. So please watch that video. And apart from that, today we'll be achieving some more different operations. Okay, so we'll be learning about concatenation, filling, and there are a lot of operations. So we'll see that. So first of all, I'll just open my project file. So this was the folder which we were working on. So here I'll just create a new folder named as lecture 3. And I hope everybody has installed Node.js and VS Code in their computers. If you haven't, you can watch the previous video for just getting an overview, but the installation is quite easy. You can search the whole YouTube for getting the installation for React.js, for VS Code and Node.js. All right. So hi Saurav, good afternoon. All right. So let's open it with VS Code. And in the last video we have covered the basics. You can see that this was last video's source code. It was a very basic source code. So I'll just close it. And since we are on lecture 3, so I'll be creating a new file here named as script1. Okay, script1. You can just name your file anything. Okay, it's not any compulsion to name it like this. So I'll just say script1.js. So here we'll start writing our code. So we'll be performing different kind of operations, and this video might go a little bit longer than expected. I don't know. Okay, because I have a set of 20 operations which we'll be performing separately and 20 different examples with that. All right, so let's start with our first example. So our first example is a very basic example in which we can actually add items to our array. For that we can use a push operation. So first of all, let's say that we have an array r equals, and I'll just say 1 2 3. Okay, let's say we have 1 2 3. Okay, we have these three numbers in our array. Suppose we want to add another array in some separate line, like I am in line number 200 now. This is in line number 1. Now I am in line number 200 and I want to add new items to this array. In C++, it is very difficult. Okay, you actually need to introduce a lot of things like dynamic stuff, and it's very difficult. But in JavaScript, it's very easy to manipulate an array. You can add or delete items very easily. Okay, so for that you can simply say r.push. Okay, that's it. And inside this you can push any number of elements. Suppose if I say 4, it will add 4. Okay, and let's see how it works. So first of all, we need to open our terminal. So I hope the terminal is visible enough and the code is visible enough. And let's say that we need to start that. So for that you can simply type, since we have installed Node.js, so I can simply type node script1.js. So before moving on, actually I did a mistake. You need to open this folder. Okay, you need to open this lecture 3 folder here. So I can simply type lecture 3 cd lecture 3. Okay, so now we are inside lecture 3. Now I can simply type node script1.js. okay, if I hit enter, and now you can see that right now we are not getting anything because we are not printing anything. So let's print this array. Okay, so I can simply write console.log array. By the way, these suggestions are coming from GitHub Copilot. So if you want to use GitHub Copilot, then you can search a little bit on YouTube. By the way, it's not free. You need to purchase it. But if you have some college ID or student ID, you can definitely use GitHub Copilot for free. So a short trick. All right, so let's print this again, so if I hit enter, you can see now I am getting an array with a new element 4. Okay, so it's not only about one element, you can actually add different elements. Suppose if I say that I want to add 4 5 6, now second 4 will be added. Okay, there will be two 4s now, don't get confused. So now I can just say, so here you can see that I am getting this array 1 2 3 4 4 5 6. Okay, so the array works fine. So let me just remove it so that you don't get confused with it. So if I again run this, you can see I'm getting an array with the elements 1 2 3 4 5 6. So you can actually add multiple elements at a single time to this array like this. So it's very easy in JavaScript as compared to other languages. Okay, so we have a push operation, then we can actually use unshift operation to actually add elements in the first. Right now you can see that elements are added in the tail of the array, but I want to add elements in the head of the array. How can I do that? So again I can say ar dot suppose I just write unshift. Okay, unshift. Inside this you can simply write -1 0. Okay, something like this. So you can actually add elements like this, so they will be added in the head of the array, they will be added in the tail of the array. Okay, so let's see. So if I hit enter, you can see again it starts from 0 -1 0 1 2 3 4 5 6. So the array has now these elements, but by unshift it will simply add the elements in the head. Okay, so you can use unshift for adding elements in the head, and for the tail you can use push operation. Okay, so I have added two elements. You can instead add only one element. So this is just an example. Okay, so I could have simply added 0 also, so it will only add 0 at first. Okay, so there can be different methods by which you can actually add these arrays. By you can use a loop also, but these are some shortcuts which you can use. All right, so now let's move. So now we have added elements. Okay, add elements. Now we will be removing elements. Okay, how can we remove elements? Suppose you have added 4 5 6 in the end, right? But I want to remove suppose I want to remove the last element. So for that you can simply type ar dot pop. That's it. Okay, add.pop. So it will simply remove the last element. Okay, last element is what? 6. In this case it's 6. So if I hit, you can simply say now we are only getting these elements. 6 is removed. Again if I call the pop operation again, so it will remove the last one. Okay, you can see now 5 is removed. Okay, previously 6 was removed, then 5 was removed. It will remove 6, it will remove 5. So we have two elements removed. So you can perform pop operation like this also. And if you want to remove elements from the front, you can use ar.shift. Okay, ar.shift. So shift operation will simply remove elements from the front. Okay, so if I again hit enter, you can simply see that we have from 0. Okay, -1 is removed, so you can actually remove elements from the head side also. All right, so these were some add and remove operations, and now we'll be looking into update operation. Okay, so right now I'll just comment these out so that we don't get confused. Okay, so right now our array has elements 1 2 3. Okay, we have elements 1 2 3. If I just print this array, you can see that we have 1 2 3. Now I want to update the first index, that means this too. Okay, I want to update this. How can I do that? I can simply say here, you can simply say I want to update the first index. Okay, not the 0th index, the first index, and let's make it 10. Okay, let's make it 10. So if I just hit enter, you can see now the first index is 10. All right, so that's how you can update things in an array very easily. And again, now we'll see how we can concatenate two array. Concatenate simply means joining two arrays. Okay, concatenate is a operation which can be performed in strings also, joining two different strings. Similarly, in concatenation in array simply means we can join two different arrays. How can we do that? So right now, let's say if I just copy this, okay, and let me just comment this out. Okay, so now if I just paste it here, ar1, okay, and simply we have ar2 as 4 5 6. We have two different arrays, and now if I want to join these two arrays, how can I do that? I can use different kind of loops for doing the same purpose, but easier approach is you can simply write, you can create a different array. You can say ar3 is simply you want to concatenate it. You can simply say ar1 dot concat, and then you can pass ar2 inside the bracket. So now if I just print ar3, you will simply get the joint array. Okay, that means all the elements of 1 and 2. Okay, so now we have some doubts in the live chat. Hi Sumit. Please cover DSA question of stack, queue, deck, tree, graph, and tree using JavaScript. Definitely, I'll be covering some questions, but this course is approached for the basics. Okay, so we won't be actually taking some complex questions, but I'll be definitely covering concepts of all of them. All right. So guys, by the way, if you have any doubts, you can actually mention them in the live chat, and with time I'll see the comments definitely, but sometimes I just focus on my code, so please wait for that. Definitely you can mention your doubts in the live chat. I'll reply as soon as possible. And one more thing, if you okay, so hmm. Before moving on, I actually want you to check the link available in the live chat. Okay, it's for a course which is actually for data structures and algorithms for JavaScript. So actually in the live chat, somebody asked that they need questions regarding these concepts for trees, graphs, etc. So there is a dedicated course built by Geeks4Geeks, and this is a paid course. So you can check the live chat, or you can check the description for the same course. You can purchase that course, and if you click the link of that course, it will take you to this page. Okay, it will take you to this page. So this course is actually built for people who are in development field, web development and app development, and also for those people who want to learn data structures and algorithm in an easy language like JavaScript. Okay, although it's not always recommended that you must start with JavaScript for data structures and algorithms, because we have a lot of shortcuts here. But if you want to learn in JavaScript, you can start with this, like, you know, data structures and algorithms in different languages, but now you are trying to learn in JavaScript, so you can definitely learn things in JavaScript. Or if it's a requirement for your web development or app development journey, or you want to learn data structures and algorithms in JavaScript for competitive programming, then definitely you can go with this course. So it's a very comprehensive course, and you can learn everything which is required. You can see what all things will be covered step by step, and this course actually covers everything required for data structures and algorithms in JavaScript. All right, so this will also help you brush up the concepts of other languages. Like if you face difficulty in learning heap in C++, if you watch things in JavaScript, they get a bit easier to understand because the syntax is easier. Okay, so this is a great course, and this course has been taught by Sandeep sir, who is the founder of Geeks4Geeks, and he has a very great teaching experience, and definitely a lot more than me. So you can definitely purchase this course. It's the best course you can actually see for data structures and algorithms for JavaScript. All right, so now we can continue. Yes, so now we have learned how we can concatenate an array. All right, so now after concatenation of array, you can see that we actually had two arrays. Now suppose if I want to concatenate any third array, how can I do that? I can simply add any third array. Okay, so I'll just say array 3. Okay, I'll just say array 3 has elements 7, 8, 9. Okay, and I'll just close it like this. All right, so now I want to concatenate these three arrays. How can I do that? I can simply say that let new array equals I can simply say array1. Okay, array1 dot concat, and inside this you can specify all the arrays which you want to concatenate with array1. Okay, so array2. So this order is really important. The order in which you mention things will be the order of your final array. Okay, so now if I just say I want to print the new array, and if I just hit enter, you can see that we have an array of all these elements in the order. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, suppose if I say that I want to concatenate from in this order, array1, array 3, array 2. So array 3 will be in middle. You can see 1 2 3 7 8 9 4 5 6, something like this. Okay, so I hope you got the logic for concatenation. All right, so now we have concatenation. Now we can actually move on with iterating over arrays. So in the last video we have actually covered for loop in which we can iterate over array. So let me just give you an example. Okay, suppose we have this array, Okay, so I'll just say that I want to iterate over each element of this array for separate operations. Like you can achieve one, okay, you can actually call one, okay, and you can multiply it by some number. You can perform different operations on different elements of each of any array. All right, so here for that you can simply say, suppose I want to print each item of this array. So for that we have learned about for loop, how we can use for loop for getting each element. So we'll be starting from index 0. Okay, let I equals 0. I is just a random variable name. You can just give another variable name, and you can say that I want to run my array till the last index, that is 2. Okay, last index is 2. All right, so here you can simply say ar1 dot length -1. Okay, that will simply give me the last index. So I'll just increment it every time, and now I can just simply say console.log array with that index. Okay, array with that index. So it will simply print one value at a time. Okay, at a time. Once the loop runs, for the 0th index it will give me the 0th index. Okay, for the first index, okay, if I is incremented, it will give me this value. For the second index it will give me this value. For the third index, this condition will become false. Okay, so the loop will stop running. All right, so if I just run this, you'll simply get 1 2 3. That's how you can iterate over elements. But we have a different approach for iterating. You can use for each loop. For each loop is a bit you can say compressed version of for loop, and it's mostly used in array cases and things which use arrays. Okay, so for that you can simply say r1 dot for each. Okay, so this is a very great loop, and you will just see what's the difference between them. Just the syntax is different, and automatically we don't need to define everything. Okay, we can simply iterate it like this. The things which are required like length and etc are taken automatically. Okay, so if I say array dot for each, and inside this I can simply say that we are calling the function for each element of this array. Okay, suppose the first element will be what? First element will be this. First element will be this 1. So I want to print 1. Okay, so I'll simply call this function for the particular element. So it will, first of all, it will iterate like this. Okay, it will be in the 0th index. Okay, now our element is 1, so element will go inside this function will be called for each index, and we will print the element. Okay, so let's see how it works. So you can see again we got 1 2 3. Okay, so that's how you can use for each loop. It's a bit easier approach, and for complex arrays you can definitely use this for each. All right, so I'll just close it, and it's really helpful in competitive programming because sometimes you are always confused that where the array starts and where the array ends. So for some reasons you can actually use this, but not all cases. Sometimes you don't always start with the 0th index, you start with some other index. So there are separate cases, but yeah, you can use them accordingly. All right, so now we'll be learning about filtering in arrays. Okay, so for filtering in arrays, so I'll just copy this. Now I will be filtering items in any array. Okay, so let's add a few more items. So I'll just say 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, so we have these elements in an array. Okay, now I want to filter those elements which are lesser than 5. Okay, which are lesser than 5 or greater than 5. So suppose I'll just say let array2, okay, array2 equals r1 dot filter. Okay, r1 dot filter. Inside this you can say just call a function. Okay, so inside this you will again pass the element. Your array element will be the value which you are currently accessing. Again, this is the first value. Okay, this is the 2. Okay, this is 3. This I'm talking about the value, not the index. Okay, so now we have the first value, that is 1. Okay, then we will be having 2 and so on. Okay, so I'll just say that return if the element is greater than, suppose 5. Okay, suppose it's greater than 5, and now let me just print it. Okay, let me just print it. So now what will happen is actually you will get all the values greater than 5, and the values lesser than 5 will be ignored with this. Okay, so that's how you can perform filters, and this is mainly used by filtering. Suppose if you have an e-commerce platform, you want to filter those which are not popular or which are low in price. There are separate criteria for filtering, so you can use search filters like this. Okay, so there are different methods for this. All right, so that's how you can use filters, then we can learn about mapping. So mapping simply means you need to access one by one each element. Okay, so if I just copy this and if I close this, okay, so for mapping, suppose I want to use map here. Okay, so instead of filter you can use map function here, and for map you can simply say I want to multiply each element by 2. Okay, each element multiplied by 2, so it will simply access the whole array. Okay, each element will be multiplied by 2 and stored in array 2. Okay, so let's see, and if I just hit enter, you can simply say each element is multiplied by 2. Okay, so that's how you can use map function, and map function can be really used for different purposes also. Okay, so we have map here. All right, so after this let's explore reduce. So I'll just copy this again and I'll just close it. So now I want to use reduce. So reduce can be actually used for a lot of purposes, like sum and getting average and getting the even numbers, etc. Guys, just a minute. All right. Okay, so I guess now we can continue. So we have a doubt here. Somebody is asking, can we add elements in the middle? Okay, so we don't have any specific method in adding elements in the middle, but you can actually use for loops for adding things in the middle. Okay, so we don't have any specific method to actually add something, like we have pop and we have push, we have unshift, we have shift to manipulate things in the head and in the tail, but we don't have any specific thing to add things in the middle. All right, so you can actually use for loops to access the middle element and then you can convert it. Okay, so now we'll be looking into the reduce. So reduce simply means, suppose I want to get the sum of all these elements. So how can I do that? I can use reduce. All right, so for that I can simply say let ar2 equals, okay, now we are defining ar2, and I'll simply say ar1 dot reduce. Okay, how can I reduce? I can simply say, now this might be some this might feel complicated, just write this way. Okay, just write this way, and you can simply say a function will be called with two parameters, accumulator, okay, accumulator and current value. So accumulator can be considered as the updated value. Okay, updated value, that means the current sum, and the current value will be the recent value. Okay, that means this is the latest sum, 1 plus 2 plus 3, this will be an accumulator, and then we have the current value, that is 4. Okay, so current value will be added to accumulator every time. Okay, so how can I do that? I can simply say just return accumulator plus current value. So by default it will always start from the first element. Okay, and the accumulator's value will be initially 0. So 0 plus 1 will now become 1. Okay, 0 plus 1 will now become 1. Okay, so initially accumulator's value will be 0. If I talk about current value will be by default the 0th index. Okay, that is 1. Okay, so value 0 plus 1 will now become 1. Now the sum is 1 and the index is 2. Okay, so now again accumulator value is 1, current value is 2. Okay, so 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, again now for the next time, accumulator value is 3, current value is 3. Okay, so now the sum will become 6. Again the accumulator value is 6, current value is 4. Now the sum will become 6 plus 4, 10. All right, so that's how you can perform this. Okay, so now if I again print array2, let's see what happens. You can actually, so instead of that, it's not a good name, so I'll just say sum. Okay, so I'm getting the sum. So now you'll see that the sum is 55. That's correct. All right, so that's how you can perform some operations. Similarly, we can actually perform different operations. Suppose I want to get the maximum of an array. How can I do that? I can simply say let max equals, here you can simply say r dot reduce. Okay, r dot reduce. All right, r1 dot reduce, I'm sorry, r1 dot reduce max of r, something like this. Okay, so that we don't get a different variable name. So inside this you need to say that I want to get the maximum. Okay, so again you will be using the same values. Okay, again you will be calling the accumulator. Okay, accumulator will be actually holding the final value. Okay, and current value will be holding your current value, current index. Okay, and here you can simply say you can pass actually a few more parameters, and you can also pass the array which you are traversing. Okay. Okay, so no, not for this case, I'll be just using it simply. All right, so here we have two values, accumulator and current value. So here you can simply say, return me those value, that value which is maximum. So for that I can simply say current accumulator will be, suppose for example, initially accumulator must be the minimum value because we want to find the maximum. Okay, if I set the accumulator as suppose infinite, then it will be problematic. If I set the accumulator as 0, in this case the accumulator was 0 by default, then suppose if we had values lesser than 0, then that will be problematic for these kind of arrays, for a negative valued array. Okay, so how can we do that? We can actually assign values to accumulator by simply specifying here. Okay, suppose I want to start from minus infinity because the minimum value possible will be minus infinity. Okay, so you can simply say in minus infinity. So now accumulator's value is minus infinity. Okay, so now if I go to the first value, 1 will become the maximum value. Now if I go to second value, the comparison between accumulator 1 and value 2, current value 2, the maximum will be what? Maximum will be 2. Now in this case, since the maximum was 2, and if I compare with now new current value, the maximum value now will become 3, and similarly I'll get maximum value 4, maximum value 5, maximum value 6, and it will be updated like this. So I'll simply say return the maximum value. Okay, maximum value between the accumulator and current value. So it will simply compare the current accumulator. Okay, compare the current accumulator, and it will be updated. Okay, so in this case if I compare with 1 and minus infinity, okay, so current value is 1 and accumulator is minus infinity because we have specified it here. Okay, so the maximum value will now become 1. In the next case, the current value is 2 and the accumulator is 1 because maximum is 1. All right, so now we'll get the maximum value as 2. In next case 3, we had the accumulator as 2 and the current value as 3, so the maximum value is 3. Okay, suppose for in this case I'll just say I have minus 1. Okay, I have minus 1. So now in this case current value is minus 1, maximum value was 3. Okay, so the comparison will happen and it will simply return 3. It will simply return 3 because we are comparing the maximum between accumulator and current value. So this will return 3, something like this. Okay, so let's see if we get the max of array. Let's see, in this case you will be getting 10. Okay, you will be getting 10. Suppose we actually had these much of elements, so in this case what must be the maximum? 3 must be the maximum. So you can get the maximum 3 with this because next we had minus 1 which is not the maximum value. Okay, so you can play with these, and now we can actually do one more thing. We can see that if all elements are even or not. Okay, so all even. Okay, all even, and I'll just say that again I would consider that I want to check that is this array containing all elements as even or not. You can see they don't have even values. You can see that they only have one even value, but I want to check that if all values are even. Okay, if all values are even, how can I do that? I can say initially I'll set a flag as true. Okay, I'll initially set a flag as true. Okay, that is accumulator as true. I'll say that the accumulator is true, and if this value was even, then accumulator will stay true. Okay, will stay true. If this value was odd, accumulator will become false, and the end, it will end. Okay, something like that. So how can I do that? I can simply say initially the accumulator will be true. Okay, that means I'll consider all values to be even. Then I would say return accumulator. Okay, accumulator, and if the current value is divisible by 2. Okay, that means it is even. Okay, so if it's divisible by 2, the remainder will become 0. Okay, this will simply return the remainder. Okay, so I'm simply checking that if this is true, this condition is true, that means current value, I can say that I'm starting from true, right? I'm starting from true. Okay, I'm starting from true. I can say that true, and this will return what? This will return false because it's not divisible with 2. Okay, so I'll simply get false for the first case. Okay, so it will simply return false because accumulator was true, but now this is false, so I'll get false. All right, so again if I say that, if I just print this, let's see what happens. So you'll simply get false because not all values are even. So suppose if I say let all values are even, so I'll just say, and I'll say -10, something like this. Okay, so let's see for this case. So here you can see now I'm getting 10. Okay, so there are different methods, and definitely you have to apply some filters for the negative integers if you're not consider this as an even number, and there are separate cases. All right, so now you can see that we got even values for this. So that's it for the reduce, and now we'll be learning about flattening in an array. All right, so now we can consider the next operation, that is flattening. So flattening simply means that suppose if I have any array, some complicated array, okay, so complicated array can be something like array inside array. So suppose I want to flatten an array like this. How can I do that? I can simply say, I'll just say let flattened array equals, I'll just simply say ar1 dot flat. Okay, this is a very basic operation, and if I just print the flattened array, you'll simply get the flattened array. You can see if you have array inside array, nested arrays, you'll be simply get a single array like this. Okay, so that's how you can perform the flatten operation with this. Okay, now we'll say that we have a condition. Suppose I want to create an array of 5 elements. Okay, although you can declare an array with empty values. Okay, it's not any problem. Like if you don't have any element inside an array, it still works in JavaScript. But for some case you want to declare an array with 5 values as 0. So you can actually say that suppose all values are equal. So for that you can simply say const as. Now in the last video you can actually use let for in this case also, like it's not any compulsion for using let or const in any case. All right, but let's use let. Okay, so I'll just say let ar1 simply equals, I'll just say we have a new array of size 10. So this is also a method for declaring any array. Okay, declaring any array. Suppose I want each of its element to be 1. Okay, each of its element to be 1. All right, so now if I just print this, let's see. So you can see each element is now 1. Suppose I made this as 5. So now each element will be 5. So you can use fill operation to fill all elements equally. We can do actually one more thing. If you want to fill these values randomly, you want to create a random array, how can you do that? So for that you can simply say we have the fill operation again here. Okay, so inside this you can actually fill these by simply calling a map function. Okay, map function, each value will be actually changed to a random value. Okay, so you have actually filled. Okay, actually I wanted to tell you one more thing. Suppose I just leave this fill as blank, what will happen? Let's see. So you can see all values will be undefined. Okay, so suppose all values are undefined and you want to fill this randomly. Okay, random values. So you can simply say dot map. Okay, each will be mapped, this array will be mapped, be covered map, and inside this you can say that we have an arrow function. You can actually call a normal function also, and you can return any value. Okay, you can return any value. So suppose I want to just pass some random value, so I'll just say math.random. So it will just pass random values. Okay, so this is a very popular JavaScript terminology, that is random. You can actually pass random values like this. Okay, so now if I just hit enter, you can see that we have random values in this array. So that's up to you. Okay, all right, so here you can see that we have some undefined values here, by the way. Okay, we have some undefined values. So although this is not an optimal approach, but yeah, I told you that that's how you can actually fill some random values with this. Okay, but although it's always not recommended to use this map with this method, okay, fill method. All right, so you can actually use a different separate for loop for converting this array later on, but you must not use it like this in a single line. All right, so we can just consider as a knowledge, but we can skip this now. Okay, so इसके बाद we can actually perform a next operation, that is slice. Suppose you have an array and you want to copy that array. Okay, you want to copy that array. How can you do that? Suppose you have an array, let ar1 equals, and we have values like this. Okay, so I'll just say let ar2 equals ar1. Okay, ar1, and now if I just try to print ar2, okay, what will happen is you will get this array. Okay, that's how you can actually copy any array. Okay, so suppose there is also another method, you can actually use slice for that. Okay, slice will simply call this. Okay, slice will simply call this. So if I hit enter, you can see I'm getting all the elements. Suppose I want to start from second and I want the 5 elements. Okay, so it will simply start from second, okay, till 5. Okay, I'm sorry, not 5 elements, till 5. So it will start from second index, that is 3. Okay, and it will count till the it will count till the 5th index. Okay, values before 5th index will be included. All right, so now we can continue, and now we'll be exploring the join operation. Suppose you want to create a string out of this array. How can you do that? So you can simply say let my str equals, and here you can simply say ar1 dot join. Suppose I want to join each array, like I want to create a string with all of the elements of this array separated with a comma, and I have just passed some random space. So if I just again call this my str, I'll just again call this, you can simply say I'm getting a string with all these elements separated by commas. Okay, suppose if I just pass a star here, okay, if I just hit enter, you can see I'm getting a star. If I just pass nothing, okay, you can just ignore this. Okay, you can pass nothing here, and if I just hit enter, you can simply say I'm getting a string of all the values joined together. All right, so that's how you can create strings like that. And again, we can okay, so now we'll be looking into some sorting operations. So in the last video, we actually explored how we can sort things, but now we'll be exploring it again because we have different kind of sort operations for different purposes. Okay, so I'll just say we have an unsorted array, let r equals. Inside this, we have an unsorted array 10, 4, 3, 9, 2, 7, 4, 8, something like this. Okay, so we have an unsorted array. So here for sorting, we can simply use a sort operation. Okay, so I'll just say r dot sort, and you can just pass it like this. So it will sort an array. Okay, so if I just print this, and now you'll simply see that you have a, okay, it didn't sort. So for that, you can simply say, first of all, I need to store it like this. I think that this won't work. You need to store it with some other variable. Okay, I think now this will work. Okay, so I think that this is not taking it directly. So we need to actually perform some operations inside this. How can we do that? So suppose you have two parameters. Okay, so for that, first of all, you have specified two parameters here. Okay, you have specified two parameters here, a and b, just randomly. So I'll just say give me the sorted value in ascending order. So for ascending order, I'll simply get the lower value first. Okay, I'll simply get the lower value first. So let me just try to print this. Okay, you can simply say that we are getting this in ascending order. Suppose if I say that I want to actually get b minus a, so it will give me descending order. Okay, it will get me descending order. Okay, so that's how you can sort array in ascending and descending order. Now after this, you can actually sort objects also. Okay, you can sort different kind of things. Suppose you want to sort a string. Okay, you have a string. Okay, let str array equals, and here you have a string. Okay, suppose you have strings like this, and I actually want some sorted. I'll just copy it from somewhere. Okay, so now you can see I have an array of different kind of strings. You can see banana, apple, cherry, dates, and I want to sort it according to the alphabets. Okay, so by default, if I leave it like this, then again, if you try to str, okay, so again, if you try to print this, it will automatically sort them according to the order. You can simply say apple, banana, cherry, dates. Okay, so they are accordingly sorted to the alphabets. All right, so now let's continue. Then we have another thing. If suppose you have objects inside your array, how can you do that? Like suppose you have objects of 5 people and you want to sort their objects according to age. Okay, according to age. Okay, so we usually do this when we have an e-commerce platform and we want to sort the objects according to the date with which they were created. Okay, are you getting my point? So how can I do that? I can simply say let users equals, inside this, suppose you have the first user whose name is HJ. Okay, and age is what? Age is suppose 25. Okay, something like this. And if I again hit a comma, and again I can pass my second object. Okay, so again if I say that second person has name as VJ and age is 12. Okay, 12, and again I have a third person, his name is AJ and age is 30. I want to sort these objects according to their ages. Okay, you can see right now they are unsorted. 25 is above, then 12 is middle, and I have 30 here. Okay, so I want to sort these objects according to the ages. Let me just make it more formatted so that it's easily comparable. Okay, so we have these 3 objects. Now I want to sort them. How can I do that? I'll just simply say, just call the users array which you want to sort. Okay, inside this you can simply say sort according to age. If you want to sort it according to age, you'll get both the parameters. Like simply say it, A will be the first object, okay, B will be the second object. In all cases A and B work like this. Okay, so A will be the first object and B will be the second object. Now we have both objects. We want to compare it by what? We have to compare it by age. Okay, we have to compare it by age. So I'll just say a dot age, so it will give me in ascending order again. Okay, a dot age minus B dot age. Just remember a trick. You might get confused with this. Just remember a trick. If you have AB, okay, and if you write A first, then B later on, this will simply give you ascending order. Okay, if I just change the order, if I write B dot age minus A dot age, it will give me descending order. Okay, so now if I just hit enter, you can simply say, okay, it's not sorted. Okay, the problem here was actually either you can return things or you can simply remove this. Okay, so both will work. Now I think it will work. Okay, so you can see that we have sorted array like this and they are sorted according to their ages. You can actually perform the same for names also. You can sort it according to the names by the same approach. Alright, so that's how you can do things here, and this can be really used in different kind of platforms, social media platforms or something like this, for sorting and search filters. Alright. Okay, so now we'll learn how can we replace any element in an array. Okay, so for that we can use operation, SPLICE. Okay, it's not slice, it's splice. Okay, there are two operations, slice and splice, but right now we are checking for splice operation, SPLICE. So how can we do that? So right now, suppose we had this array. I'll just copy this. And here I'll say that replace my first index. Okay, replace my first index. So I'll just say let ar1 equals, and I'll just say that ar dot splice. Okay, if you want to replace things, you can simply say replace the first index. Okay, start from first index. Okay, only one element. I want to replace only one element. With what value? I want to replace it with, suppose something like this. Okay, I want to replace this 4, I want to replace this 4 only 4 with this value, okay. So let's see. So if I again try to print this, what will happen is actually okay, so I think this is not working it this way. If I just remove it, if I just make it like this, I think now it must work. Okay, now it works. So you need to make sure what approach you are using by testing it like this. Okay, so now you can see that all elements are there, but the first index is replaced. Okay, so that's how you can perform any operation. If you want to replace at any index, you can use this way. Okay, so we have performed the splice operation. Now we'll know how we can slice an array. Okay, slice operation and splice operations are different. So we have actually worked with slice operation, and let me just say that let's work again with slice operation. Okay, so I'll just say let ar1 equals, actually want to tell you what's the difference between splice and slice. Okay, so let's say that it will work till 6. Okay, that means it will start from first index. Okay, second, third, fourth, fifth, these values will be given, next will be ignored. Okay, so let's say, let me just print it, and now I'll get these values. Okay, so I hope you got the difference between splice and slice. From splice you can actually replace values. Okay, from slice you can actually slice the array, you can cut the array. Okay, so these approach work like this. Now suppose your array has some duplicate elements. How can you remove duplicate elements? So for removing duplicate elements, you can actually perform a filter operation. It's a very easy operation for removing duplicacy. And suppose you, in this case, you had 2 4s, right? You had 2 4s. Suppose you want to remove duplicate items. So suppose you can say let ar1, in this array you will not be having any duplicate items. Okay, although you can use sets in JavaScript, but let me just remove it like this. Okay, so I'll just say ar dot filter. Okay, add dot filter. Inside this you can say, just give the value, okay, and its index. Okay, both are required for this case. Okay, that means I am at 10, but its index is what? Its index is 0. Okay, so I'm getting both things, 10 and 0. So I'll just say that if return, if your whole array, if your whole array has any other element, which matches your current value, okay, which matches your current value, then it will be returned. Okay, so now let's test this, and if I again just print this, okay, if I again just print this, I hit enter, you can see now 10 is removed. What it actually did was, first of all, it checked that your 10 is unique or not. Okay, your 10 isn't unique, like your 10 is actually unique. So for this case, actually we have to specify it properly, dot index of. Okay, so for example, I'll just say, let me just print it, okay, so that you get a better idea. So I'll just say console.log value and index. Okay, let me just check what's actually happening here. So if I call this again, you can simply say for the first case value is 10, index is 0. For the second case, value is 4, index is 1, and so on. Okay, so I hope you are clear with this value and index. Now what we'll do is we'll check what is this. Okay, so I'll just again print this. I again just print this. Okay, so now let's see what actually happens here. You can actually see, that it's comparing one by one. Okay, again the whole array is called inside an array. You can see array is called inside array, whole array is called, and now I am actually comparing the index of that particular element with other elements. Okay, that means it's actually being compared by other elements, that if 10 exists in other elements or not. If 10 does not exist, it's automatically returned, and same for 4, same for others. Okay, now for the next case, you can see that 4, for this case you can see that 4 is here, but 4 was already covered, so it will check again that 4 exists or not, already existed, so it won't be returned. Okay, so you can perform it like this, but although you can perform set operation, it's a better approach with this. Okay, so you can create a set and then you can perform it like that. Okay, so that's how you can actually remove the you remove the duplicate elements from any array. One more thing, we can actually perform a different operation in which you need to test that if all your elements are even or not. Okay, even or not. How can you do that? Suppose you have an even array. Okay, you have an even array. Let arr equals 2, 4, 6, 8. You have an even array. Okay, so now what will actually happen is I need to check that if all elements of my array are even or not. How can I check that? So I can simply say that let all even. This is basically used to compare all elements at once. Okay, so if all elements perform a same task, like agree with same thing, that means all elements are even, true will be returned, else false will be returned. Okay, so I'll just say arr dot every. Okay, every, and I'll just simply say that if suppose I have a value x, if it's divisible by 2, that means it is true. Okay, so it will check that every value is divisible by 2 or not. If any value is returning false, then this will stop, and automatically all even will become false. Okay, so I'll just say all even. So let's see. So now you can see that I am getting true in this case. Suppose I just change it to 5. Now if I again hit enter, you can see, okay, I think this is not working for this case. Okay, I think I am mistaking with something for this every case. All right. Okay guys, so I think that I am mistaking with this every case, so we'll just cover this in the next video. I think there is some syntax issue, or I have mistaken it with something else. Okay. Okay, so let me just remove it. I'll just say that I'll just write a proper method for this. Okay, I'll just write it properly with arrow functions. So I think now this will work, because now I have introduced some brackets and I think it must work. Okay, now it's working. Actually, I didn't introduce you to the brackets. Now it works fine. Okay, so this was a very basic mistake which I created. So it's very important to perform brackets at least in the left side of the arrow functions. Okay, so now I can see that it is clear. But suppose if at least one element is even, then I also want to say that yeah, my test is passed. Right now I'm comparing all elements must be even. Now I want to say that at least if one is even, then you can simply say, for that you can simply say, instead of every, you need to perform it by sum. Okay, by sum. And then again you can simply say if at least some elements are divisible by 2, at least one element is divisible by 2, then it will become true. So let's see how it works. So now you can see I'm getting true. Suppose if I make it 21, I make it 61, I make it 81. Okay, so if I again hit enter, you can see now I'm getting false, because none of the elements are now even. Okay, that's why I'm getting false. All right, so this was some operation. Then we have our last operation, that is intersecting. Okay, that is intersecting. So how can we do that? Suppose we have another array, let array1 equals, okay, and we have elements like, suppose we have some common elements here, 21, 31, okay, 61, 91. You can see both of these elements have some common elements, right? Have some common elements, that is 21 and 61. Apart from these, we have other elements like 5 and 81 for this one, and 31 and 91 for this one. Okay, so intersection of these arrays will simply give me common elements. How can I do that? I can simply say let common equals, I can simply say arr dot filter. Okay, just choose any one array, arr dot filter. Okay, inside this you'll compare each value one by one. Okay, so you can simply say that suppose I am in the first value. Okay, I'm in the first value. Simply say that if my array 1 includes that value. Okay, so right now I'm in the first value. Now in array 1 I'll be checking the whole array if 21 exists or not. If 21 exists, then 21 will be written. If 21 didn't exist in this array, that means it's not common, it won't be written. Okay, so I hope you got the logic. And now I can simply say includes. Inside this you can pass the value again. Okay, so I'm simply checking, I'm in the first index, right? I'm in the 0th index. Okay, I have value 21. Okay, so I'm simply checking that array 1 has 21 or not. If it returns false, then I'll jump to the next case. Okay, and so on. So all the common elements will be actually stored inside this. So let me just print it, console log common. Okay, so now let's see. You can see I'm getting the common elements. Okay, so that's how you can actually perform intersection in any array, and for union you can perform concatenation operations, something like that. Okay, all right, so I hope you are clear with these arrays operations. We have covered all the array operations which are required, and these operations are basically important for computer programming as well as in your web development and app development journey. And we'll be also exploring different kind of data structures like graphs, trees, objects. In this these operations will be really important. Okay, so I hope you understood everything, and if you haven't understood anything, you can definitely watch this video again so you get a better idea of how things are working. All right, so before ending this video, in the live chat you can actually get a link for a course that is created by Geeks for data structures and algorithms. Okay, so this is basically for people who want to learn data structures and algorithms in JavaScript. So you can definitely check that course, and if you click that link, it will take you to a link which is in this page. Okay, it will take you to this page. So this is a course, very well defined course, and here you can learn everything regarding to JavaScript. You can see what all things will be taught here. Also all the topics have been covered here, so you can definitely check out this course, and this is a paid course, so you need to purchase it for accessing it. And this course is actually taught by Sandeep sir, who's the founder of Geeks4Geeks. So it's a very great course, and he has a very great teaching experience. All right, so I think this was it for this video. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the live chat of any of my videos, or you can actually contact me on Instagram at @Harshal_3011. Okay, and you can also message me on LinkedIn, Harshal Jain. All right, so that's it for today, and I will see you in the next one. Till then, see you, have a good day. Bye bye.